Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds. In today's video topic, we're going to be going over Cinder Strike Ignite. So, this build has always been teetering towards the edge of playability for the past few months now. Ignite is very underpowered, Cinder Strike is very underpowered, but the actual skill tree of Cinder Strike is insanely goated, meaning there's a lot of support for Ignite and it almost gets there. Well, thanks to the addition of the relic, the Kelthan decoy, this patch, pretty much what it does is the Kelthan blast powder. All it does is pretty much just make your decoy into kind of like it turns it into a grenade, pretty much. You get to like throw it out, and it can support the ignite setup very easily, and makes your clear a lot smoother. And thankfully, Cinder Strike is good enough to deal with mobs in that period when your decoy is not up. This is pretty much just a decoy build that is using Cinder Strike to buff the decoy. Now, other things about the build I've solved. Well, there was a huge sustain problem thanks to the fact of how the build overall functioned. Since you have so many uniques in the build, you could not afford to run a bleeding heart for the global leech it provides for your ignites, meaning your sustain was utter garbage. Well, thanks to some innovation within the Marksman tree, I realized that you can actually use the crit vulnerability package on top of the gain health when you crit an enemy package on top of Marksman. And since you have so many extra points anyways, because Ignite isn't fully supported in the Marksman tree, meaning that you actually get halfway decent sustain. As you can tell in the footage, I do tank a lot of hits. It's because I am glancing blow capped. I do have pretty good gear in this video. But overall, that was one of the problems, and we solved that. The other problem was damage. Well, decoy helps a lot. The Kelthan decoy powder, whatever it's called, the relic, it has 90% increased ignite duration, I believe, on the low end, and like 130% at the high end. And that is really strong. Turns out when you don't have any ignite duration and you just completely double it, turns out it doubles your damage or something. And not only that, it gives you fire pen and ignite on throwing attack hit, which is what our decoy is and which is what part of our Cinder Strike is. So it's actually by far one of the most overpowered relics, like uniques in the game, which is tied to one of the worst mechanics in the game, i.e. ignite. So that's why you don't see it getting used, because ignite sucks right now. As you can tell in the footage, it takes me like a minute to do a 150 corruption Oribus, because guess what? Ignite's kind of undertuned right now, but that doesn't stop me. I made the build anyways, and so far it's been fun. It's a fun play style. It's fun playing Cinder Strike with all the little projectiles firing. It's fun to be able to press the decoy key and watch the whole screen explode. There will be another decoy build eventually that is way more abusive than this, but overall, I really enjoyed my time with the build. If you were to take this seriously and really juice it up, I would probably not play Marksman. I would play the melee version of it, but that kind of ruins the point of playing Marksman. But with that being said, let's get into the video, shall we? All right, here we are in game with the build. It's like a level 94 Marksman. The name is funny because Shadow Daggers got shoved into the dirt this patch. But overall, the build is pretty fun. Like I said, you have the pretty much the instant decoy, which is really fun. This Kelthan blasting agent really does like do insane like value for ignite. You can go up to 120% duration. You can go even more penetration, even more cooldown recovery speed. And until here, you have a 14-second cooldown for decoy, but if you place this on, it's like a 6-second cooldown, which is actually really good and allows you to spam decoy to do a large amount of damage. Like just one throw of decoy without any buffs or anything is like 10k DPS for ignite. It's like actually really good. The big problem with this build is it's a lot of button pressing, because you want to be picking up your dark quiver arrows. You want to be placing down your smoke bomb. You want to be placing down your thing. Like there's like so many things you want to be doing at the same time, and it's really hard to like make sure everything happens at the same time, which leads to kind of a cancerous playstyle. But overall, it's just how Cinder Strike works overall. Let's get into the skill, shall we? So we take 2 points travel into ignition, 2 points into kindling travel, although the fire shred chance is nice, although we can get it from what is it called? From Spirits of Fire. The problem is we get a shit ton of fire pens, so the fire shred isn't that useful, although it is get useful for melting rares and stuff. Then, of course, one node into Burning Dagger. It's kind of what the build is built around. So pretty much if you use and hit at least one enemy with Cinder Strike, it makes a dagger here, as you can tell. And the Burning Dagger is an extra hit, pretty much, and it's affected by the entire Cinder Strike tree, which is nice. We take 1 point into Flaming Flurry travel, then 1 point into Fire Breathing, so that we gain Burning Dagger Cone on Cinder Strike's attack. Then, of course, Umbral Conflagration, so it makes it so all of my shadows throw daggers as well, which is really strong, as I can show you, because they are all extra hits and allow you to hit extra times with Cinder Strike. Then, of course, we take 2 points travel into oil coating. This build gets a lot of percentage increased damage, so we're actually not really based on oil coating, as I'll show you later. Then 3 points into combustible for the fire pen and the ignite effect. You want as much ignite effect and fire pen as possible. And of course, 2 points into Firewalker. Cinder Strike deals increased fire damage over time per point of dexterity. That's really strong because you already get the 4% from dexterity. Then you also get the 6% from here, making each point of dexterity 10% increased damage. So my dexterity is giving me 540% increased damage, which is really, really strong. Then, of course, 1 point into Flammable Toxins to convert Poison Chance into Ignite Chance, so we can just have that extra amount of oomph. And it makes it so we can run stuff like Surfing Bows and Nagasa Quivers and stuff like that. And then, of course, 1 point travel into Soot and Ash, and then 3 points into Eagerness for attack speed. Now, it could be said you could take points out of these and put it into Flaming Fury for the more percent damage, but I don't think it really matters at this point. You're just trying to hit as much as possible, and Eagerness really does help with that. Then for shift, this is your stereotypical deck stacking shift setup. The only difference is we're running the shadow because it does apply with our, of course, with our Cinder Strike. Every 3 attacks, we get the big attack. And of course, healing per dex makes it so that we gain a lot of healing, really strong. Makes it so, we can sustain ourselves. Then 4 points in the Jade Quiver, so we get extra poison chance, which is turned into ignite chance. And of course, 3 points into venom tipped arrows for the increased damage over time with the Jade arrows. Then for Smoke Bomb here, it's a little different than normal because mainly because of what we're setting up. So we take 1 point travel into Generosity, 1 point travel into Enfeeblement, 1 point into Moonlight Bomb to get that Silver Shroud stack. We are running Apostasy, as you can tell. We are running Apostasy, so we actually are almost close to, we will be close to like Glancing Blow Cap once we actually get some Dexterity on gear, but I can show you here. Once I pick up one one arrow, we're actually almost capped to Glancing Blow Cap, which is mainly what I was going for. And why that's important is it just gives us a lot of defenses. And since Silver Shroud does not conflict with what is it called? The node. I just said it, Apostasy, right? It does not conflict with Apostasy. You get the free dodge anyways, which is nice because it allows you to double dip on the defenses. And of course, 1 point into Concealed Incarnage is the only way you can get Crimson Shrouds is like a bow build pretty much, or that, or through Dark Quiver. So just the extra bleed chance. We are running Malahide Tubers, which turns our bleed chance into ignite chance, which is really strong. Helps us out a lot there. Then 4 points travel into Lingering Fume, so it lasts longer. We want it to last as long as possible. 1 point travel into Smoking Blades. This doesn't really matter to us. And then 3 points into Umbral Assault. The Smoke Cloud has a chance to create a shadow, meaning we can spam shadows. Main reason I have 4 points in there is because it doesn't really matter, because we are at cap with so since we're a marksman, we only have 3 shadow cap. It's not like as if we have 5 shadows, so we don't need all 5 shadows from Smoke Bomb. Then 1 point travel into Thick Smoke travel, 3 points into Eroding Fumes, 1 point into Toxic Cloud, then 3 points into Venom Infusion, so we have chance to poison enemies with poison bow attacks, which gets converted to Ignite thanks to Cinder Strike, the note here, Flammable Toxins. Now, Decoy, this is the interesting tree. Thanks to the fact that we are using Kelthan Blasting Decoy, the Kelthan blasting agent, and we're at a 6-second cooldown. It means we can go all damage for decoy. So we take 2 points travel into boom, 2 points travel into short fuse, 5 points into burning oil for the more ignite stacks, because this is per explosion. We get 3 total. Then 4 points travel into meticulous construction for 100% more damage with the ignite supplied by decoy. Then 2 points for grand diversion for the extra decoys. So we throw out 3 decoys instead of just 1, which increases our AoE significantly. And if you make the AoE big enough and you like throw it correctly, you can actually get a large amount of overlap as well, which is one of the strong things about this. Then 5 points into excessive explosives for even more percentage more damage, leading to decoy being able to literally carry the build. And then for Dart Quiver, this is your stereotypical like attack speed setup for Dart Quiver. Mainly we take 1 point travel into Mending, 4 points into Nightfall, then 2 points into Until Dawn. This makes it so that when I attack with Cinder Strike, it will create a quiver, an arrow, meaning we don't have to press Dart Quiver except for when we're in bosses for extra Dart Quivers. This is a very annoying thing to deal with, but the issue is like you don't have anything else. Like, what else are you gonna run? Like, you don't have anything else to run, so you just take with what you can get. Also, they provide you a frenzy, which is more attack speed, which is nice. They also give you an extra shadow, which is really good with the extra attacks with unbroken flagration, right? Then we take 1 point travel into Scourge Quiver, 3 points into Crimson Quiver, so we have more uptime on Crimson Shrouds, which is more chance to bleed, and that's global, so it applies to everything we do. Then 3 points into Archer Focus for extra more damage. Then 1 point into Fiery Vengeance. So the combo resets so that whenever we do pick up an arrow, what happens is, I can show you here, the combo resets. So we're always puking out that extra big attack, right? Gives us more extra big attacks. Then 1 point into Dragon Slayer for the 15% coal, which is really strong. And that's pretty much it for the skills. Now for the passives here, I take 8 points into Steady Hand for the dexterity, because you want as much dexterity as possible with this build. 8 points into Swift Assassin, because you want as much attack speed as with this build. 1 point travel into Guile. 5 points into Evasion. You want some increased dodge to make your dodge from that gets turned into Apostasy into Glancing Blow. You want some increased dodge for that. And of course, you want the reduced damage while moving, which is really strong. 8 points into Poison Tip, so poison chance with a bow. So this is generic poison chance, as you can tell. I can show you here. So this is just generic poison chance, which is really strong because we want as much generic as possible, because it applies to the thrown daggers, applies to the bow hits, and applies to the decoy hits. So we want as much generic as possible. Then for Blade Dancer, we take 8 points into Cloak of the Shadows for the Glancing Blow, and the dex gets turned into flat dodge, which then gets turned into Glancing Blow, so this is even more Glancing Blow. 2 points travel into Pursuit, 2 points travel into Blood Serpent's Blades, 8 points into Shroud of Dust for more HP, because we want as much HP as possible with this kind of build. Then 1 point into Apostasy so that we get the Glancing Blow. Then 8 points into Draining Arrows for the attack speed. We want as much attack speed as possible to puke out as many daggers as possible. 6 points into Focus Fire, probably going to be 8 eventually. 1 point travel into Assassin's Quiver. 1 point travel into Concentration. We run I found 8 points is enough for Woundmaker. The main reason why is we're running Perfect Aim. It lets us get the health on crit, gives us 75 health on crit every single time anything crits. And as you can tell, we have a lot of projectiles that happen. We have a lot of things that happen. So like having that extra health on crit is really strong. It helps our sustain, makes it so we don't have to deal with that. 8 points into Mediation, because we want as much flat dodge as possible to be turned into Glancing Blow. 5 points into Heightened Senses for the critical strike avoidance to save some suffixes on gear. 1 point travel into Arrow Storm, 1 point travel, 1 point into Silver Shroud covering fire, so you get an extra Silver Shroud every few seconds, every 10 seconds, I think. Then eventually you can max this out when you get higher level, or you can like take out some stuff, like you can take out this eventually and max this out for even more Poison Bow chance, for more Ignite stuff. Then 1 point travel into Ethereal Arrows, 4 points into Mana Wrap. Pretty much it's just extra mana. I found that it's best to run this so that we can sustain the insane mana cost that Decoy has. As you can tell, it has like a 72 mana cost, so being able to sustain that mana cost is really nice. And since what is it called? Cinder Strike is 0 mana cost, and we have no other bow skills. It doesn't really matter for like the bow mana cost doesn't really matter for us. 1 point travel into Barrage of Pain, then 5 points into Perfect Aim. That's pretty much it for the passive tree. Like I said, it's very this is as close as a viable Cinder Strike build as you're gonna get. And for the gearing here, I have really good gear because I played this build for a long time because I really wanted it to work. So we got it to work finally. So for the idols, you want as much ignite. You want like global poison chance, I believe, which gets turned into ignite. Then of course the ignite and bow hit, like as much ignite and chance as possible. Ignite effect, the bleed and chant on bow hit gets turned into ignite chance. Then of course ignite effect as well. Chance to ignite on bow hit, pretty much. It's like chance to ignite hit generic. Like it doesn't really matter what you get as long as you get as much ignite effect as possible. I believe these go. Oh, these are max rolled. Yep. So you get 32% from there. Now for the helmet, we want ignite effect, dexterity, then of course HP and endurance. But like I said, my gear is kind of like it's kind of like all over the place. It is good. It's just all over the place. Then for the amulet, the LE damage over time, you probably want the fire pen here as well, or fire damage. And then of course, res. The bow, this is the most important part as this is where a lot of your generic chance comes from. You want the generic bleed on hit and ignite on hit because the problem is inside, it only affects the stuff inside the tree for flammable toxins. So it does not apply to your decoy. So you want to prioritize global bleed and ignite over poison. Of course, the fire damage and the attack speed. The chest is ignite effect, HP. That will probably be flat or increased dodge to help us get to our cap. And of course, dexterity because it's increased damage. The quiver, poison on bow hit, really strong. Of course, the attack speed. Then, of course, the ignite and bleed chance global. Then the rings. The rings are absolutely nuts. This is a nuts ring. Dex, elemental damage over time, resistance, and of course the HP didn't roll well. Cleanse, elemental damage over time, HP, really strong belt. Of course, the other glove. This is like one of the best rings I have ever made in the history of the game. This is pretty much exactly what you would want for this kind of build. This ring is my baby. And of course, Malhan's Hubris, you're forced to run this because if you don't run this, you don't have enough generic ignite chance to make the build pop. Then I am running Solarum Greaves. You can run the boots, the ignite boots. You can run, where is it? You can run Fiery Dragon Shoes. You can run it. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing so. Mainly because it's a lot of like HP you're losing, but it is a lot of damage, as you can tell, because it's just extra ignite effect, right? Gets us into those crazy numbers of like 140-ish. That's like about where it stops you, like 130. So you can run Fiery Dragon Shoes. These are pretty much interchangeable if you want to deal with a little bit less HP and the crit strike avoidance and all that. But, you know, it's to each their own on that. Like you can run like Fiery Dragon Shoes, you don't have to. It's kind of like whatever, because you get so much ignite effect everywhere else, but it is a lot of damage. Then, of course, the literal star of the build, the Kelthan Blasting Agent, this is like one of the best uniques ever. It's just tied to one of the worst mechanics, so it's shit, right? So it's got the 100% ignite duration. That is insanely strong on a class that has no ignite duration. The chance on throwing hit was insanely strong. The reduced recovery speed, making it so you can spam decoy, is insanely strong for different builds that I'll be playing in the future. And of course, the fire pen is just a cherry on top. And that's pretty much it for gearing today. Like I said, I wouldn't suggest playing this build as of the moment. I would wait for a few buffs, mainly to ignite as a mechanic. But once ignite does get buffed, this build will be pretty decent at ignite. That being said, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye.